Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today I got a little project we're working on, again for a viewer, and this is for George Wallace, who sent in a Gib that's needing some work. And the story on this is that he bought a used Grizzly lathe some years ago, I think about 3 years ago, and had some problems with it and started investigating and realized that the original Gib that was in there, this Gib right here, the end of the Gib had broken off and it was not properly engaging in there, and it was giving him some trouble. He contacted Grizzly and said, hey, I'd like to order a new Gib. So they ordered him a new Gib, sent it to him, and this is what they sent him. I'm going to zoom you in here and show this to you because it's really kind of shocking what they consider a new Gib. So this is the original Gib that was in there, and he said it's missing between 1/4 and 1/2 inch on the end down here, and it's not in terrible condition other than that. It's just been ground to the taper, never been scraped, but I'm sure it functioned just fine. When you ordered the new Gib, this is what they sent. And first off, remember I told you that the original was only about 1/4 of an inch longer. You know, we've got an extra 3 inches on there roughly. But look at the finish on this thing. I mean, this thing was just rough milled, and when I say rough milled, I mean rough milled. I mean, I don't know that I hardly ever get anything that rough coming off of my milling machine, and they didn't even clean it up all the way to the edge. He's got a lip back here. It's that way on both sides, just very rough machined, and it's way too thick. I mean, you can see even at the smallest point down there, that's 1/8 of an inch too thick. So George reached out to me and said, hey, can you help me out? I need some help here. My game plan here is we're going to take this Gib over to the surface grinder, and we're going to actually grind it into the proper taper. Now, making a Gib, usually when I'm making a Gib, I have the machine that I can test fit that Gib into and make sure I get that taper exactly right. You know, I'll start with basically trying to copy the original taper. I'll then take it over to the machine, leave it a little bit thick, stick it in there, you know, and then using shim stock, I can see if it needs, you know, more off of one end or the other. I don't have that luxury here, so we're just going to copy the taper that is on this original. And to do that, I'm just using a real quick, easy way to see what I need to set my my Sine bar to. I basically got a magnetic chuck over there. It's a compound angle, and it works by putting a stack of gauge blocks up underneath one end to raise it up and to give you the taper. And you can use trigonometry functions to figure out what angle it is. In this case, it's really kind of easy. I know that the distance between my two rolls on that particular Sine plate or Sine bar that I'm going to be using is 10 inches. So instead of doing a bunch of math and calculating this to an angle and then trying to figure out the angle, I just measured 10 inches on there, and I measured the thickness here and I measured the thickness here, subtracted them out, and that is pretty much what my stack needs to be, or it's going to be real close. So I did the math, and let me get my notes here. So on the big end, it was 282 thousandths. On the small end, it was 196 thousandths. Subtract that out, 86 thousandths. So game plan here is we're going to go set this up on the grinder, on the Sine plate. I'm going to put an 86 thousandth stack in there to give me the taper that I need. I'm then going to put the original Gib on top with an indicator. We'll run it back and forth and make sure that that stack is exactly right, and I suspect we're going to have to make some adjustments to it. And then from that, I can adjust my stack until this one is running perfectly true on an indicator. Once that's done, we'll swap the Gib out, put this rough one on there, and start grinding that one. We'll have to grind it on both sides to get it to the proper thickness or proper taper. And my game plan here is again, I don't know how thick it needs to be to go into the proper distance, so I'm going to leave it long. We're not going to try to cut it, and we'll basically let him put this Gib in the machine once he gets it back, and he'll have to cut the amount off each end to get it to the proper length. That's the only way I know how to do it without having the machine here to actually test fit all this on. So let's go back there. We're going to get our stack on our Sine plate and check this thing out, get our tapers right. So getting ready to set up my Sine plate back there, I need an 86 thousandth stack, or I need to raise it up 86 thou. Now the way that my particular Sine plate works is you have to add 100 thousandths to it because there's actually a little 100 thousandths recess down in the bottom. So we need to have basically 186 thousandths. So I'm going to start, this one is 136 thou right here, and we add 50 thou to that. That adds up to 186 thou. So that stack right there is 186 thou. That'll give me an actual 86 thou that I need. I'm going to go set that up on the Sine plate and check it with an indicator. Just a quick look at my setup. This is my compound Sine plate that I have. So basically this is on a hinge. You got a roll down here. There's another roll right here. This is 10 inches. And look, see the little step in there? That's 100 thousandths down. And up in there, I put those gauge blocks, and it's sitting down on those gauge blocks. So this end is raised up 86 thousandths. And you can actually, on this particular Sine plate, tilt the plate in this direction as well. There's a hinge and a roll here, so you can do it in two different directions. I'm only doing it in one right now. So you really can't see it, but my stack is up underneath there. And I've got my gib up on the top here, and we're going to check it with the indicator. So I've just got a little last word. This is a 1,000ths indicator. If I really want to get ticky, I could put a 10,000ths indicator on there, but I'm just going to be honest with you. I've already checked this, and I'm probably not going to get much better than what I'm doing right now. And the reason is if you look here, I got it zeroed out here. Let's start sweeping, and it moved just a little bit there just when I, tell you what, let me re-zero that. All right, so we're going to come on down, pretty much staying right there on zero. My big head's in the way. So let's see where we're at. We're basically on zero there. It's going to fluctuate a little bit. I'm going to come across, pretty much staying right on zero, right on zero, right on zero. And it gets to the end, and boom, it pops up 5 thou. From about here to here. I think that is actually in the actual measurement. I had more or less zero from here to here, and then it starts bumping up. I'll chase my tail all day long trying to get around that. So I'm going with the fact that it stays zero from there to roughly here, that we've got this thing pretty much at the right angle. Again, without having the machine here to test this, fit this on, we're going to be making some just doing the best job we can, but I think we're going to be able to get it real close. I mean, it's running almost perfectly true from about there to there. We're going with it. That's what we're going to do. I think we are about set up here to get started. I'm going to start by dressing my wheel, and I've got a diamond on here. Let's get our spindle going here. They recommend on this surface grinder, it has bronze bearings in here, but just kind of bump the spindle a few times, get the oil flowing in there before you really turn it on. And I think we're probably good. We'll just go ahead and turn it on now. And there with that diamond, I'm going to lower my wheel down until it just touches it. All right. Lower it down, 1, 2, 3 thou. Come across, 2 thou, 1 thou. And sounds like we were making good contact all the way around on the wheel. Take my diamond down. I'm going to get my table stroke kind of worked out here. see how we are. We can come in just a little bit on each end. See how that looks. We'll go with that. Now let me lower that down until it starts making contact. I lost a little bit of audio here, but I'm going to do a little voiceover and kind of tell you what's going on. So I put it on there. We touched off on the first one and just kind of kept going back and forth until we got it to clean up completely on that first side. Once we got it to clean up completely, we flipped the part over and again just cleaned it up until it got completely cleaned up. And that took a little bit of time to work through there, particularly on the first side until we got it cleaned up. The second side went much quicker because it was pretty much already at the right angle. We just had to get that second side cleaned up all the way across. After both sides cleaned up completely, I took it back over to the surface plate and took the original gib, put it up next to it, and using a depth micrometer, I just measured how much thicker the new gib was than the old one, and that gave me an indication as to how much material still needed to come off to get it to the final size. Done some measuring, and I need to take about another 25 thousandths off of the thickness of this, and I think we'll be right where we need to be. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit long, and my goal is to kind of get this in down here roughly about a half-inch in, the same thickness as the other one, because he told me it was a little bit longer, and that way he can push this in, and hopefully it'll be sticking out of both ends on his machine, and he can cut this to the proper length to make it fit in there. Without having his stuff here, I really can't do that. But I think 25 thou is going to get us right where we need to be. So I'm going to come in here, we'll touch off again. And we will go down 20 thou. 25 thou, I think. That was about 1 thou. This will be 3. Five thou. 7 thou. 23 thou. 'This will be my last pass at 25 thou, and then I'll just take a little bit after that. So we're on our last full depth pass here. We should be right at 25 thou total. Of course, I will have lost a little bit by degrading of my wheel. After I do this, I'm going to redress the wheel. We'll just lightly touch it up, and we should be pretty darn close to where we need to be. And again, I'm guessing to a certain extent. I'm probably going to have to send this to him, and I would rather it be a little thick and have him send it back and take more off than to shoot past my number and be too thin. So all right, just clean this wheel up a little bit. Take about a half a thou, come back across this. I'll make a couple of blank passes across that and I think we'll be done. When you're grinding, you always want to finish out with some blank passes where you really don't move the grinding wheel down. You'll be surprised at, you know, how many little teeny tiny points in there are still touching. And you want to get that as flat as you can. So just a couple of blank passes across there. You know, we're probably taking, in some places, a 10 thou or 50 millionths of an inch, just kind of hitting little areas in there until you get it just right. But that's the secret to getting a good grind, is that finish operation. I'm also taking the time to grind the ends. I noticed that this gib was about 10 or 15 thousandths thicker than the other one in that direction. This is not a bearing surface. This is not a surface that really matters from a contact standpoint, but it does matter if it's too thick to fit into the area that it goes. So I am just going to clean it up, at least make it parallel, because it's far from that now. And it needs to be right at a ½ inch thick, and it was measuring about 15 thousandths thicker than that in the thickest place, and kind of right on ½ inch in the narrowest place. So anyway, we're going to touch it up. I just got it sitting on its edge. It's kind of it's a trapezoidal shape, but we want these two sides to be parallel and not to be a rough finish, kind of like what we had to start with. And I think we've about got it here, not much more anyway. You can see it's high on either end. And also note, I took the sine plate off because it was at a taper. I want this to be parallel, so we just went back down to the original magnetic chuck here. All right, that's got that side. I'm gonna pull it off. Flip it over. And we got it cleaned up. I'm not too concerned about getting just super fine finishes on these surfaces because they are not, again, bearing surfaces. I'm just trying to get them to the right thickness. So we will kind of go back and forth on it a couple of times. Let it smooth out, but I think we got the gib pretty much ground. All right, guys, I think we've got a gib ready to send back for final fitting and making sure it's right. Again, there's guesswork here involved since I don't have the parts to actually check it with, but I think we're pretty good. So I'm over on the surface plate, and I've just got the original gib, and I put it up next to the other one, and it's more or less flush right there. So you see I got length on either end from the original. And what he'll have to do is put this into his machine and figure out where it needs to be cut to be the proper length. Because it is a taper, depending on how it fits in there, you know, it's going to depend on, he can get it to the exact right length, you know, for his machine. He'll have to cut them off. If I was going to scrape one side, just blindly scrape it to the surface plate, but I think what I'm going to do is send it back ground like this, let him get it in there, make sure everything's right on it, make sure we don't need to adjust the taper or something like that. And if he wants to send it back, I can scrape one side to the surface plate for him. Or honestly, he can just let it go like it is. The original was not scraped at all, so don't know that it's really necessary in this case. But I think we've got it. We've turned a really, really, really rough Gib that Grizzly sent into a more of a finished product, or at least closer to being a finished product. There we go, guys. One more job knocked out. I'm going to get this boxed up and ready to send back in to my viewer who sent it to me, and hopefully he'll be able to salvage his Grizzly lathe and get it back in operation. And there we go. Still just blown away that Grizzly sends parts out like that, but part of me isn't surprised either. Guys, that's going to be a wrap. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and those comments and thumbs up are appreciated. And with that, we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.